And we are live. Hey guys, Ted Bogert with the TED Show. Last show of Friday, May 22nd, which is where we're at today. I love this series. It's American Stories. The co-founder, co-creator, co-host, the man with the most, Sal Picataggio, is on the show.
Yeah,
there he is right there. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Doing well. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday. And then we have our guest, our immigrant entrepreneur, our guy who knows how to get through the system and work it and show you guys how to live your American dream, Renato Gangoni.
Yes. Thanks for having me, Ted. Thanks Sal for the invitation. So my pleasure.
Yeah,
it's exciting. All right. So Sal, tell them, just in case they don't remember, give us the Cliff's Notes version of what you do. And then let's roll right into Renato.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ted, for another chance to do this series on your show. I really appreciate that you have me back again. So I'm Sal Picataggio. I'm an immigration attorney with Colombo and Hurd from Orlando, Florida. I've been practicing business immigration since 2011, helping entrepreneurs, investors, employers, employees, folks with special abilities, high education, and other things achieve their American dream by finding the most appropriate, the best, the most likely to be successful immigration process out of the many, many, many immigration processes that there are. Our firm handles everything from business immigration, family immigration, and even deportation and removal defense. So we do a little bit of everything. And I'm happy to have today Renato Gangoni, a wonderful gentleman who I helped over the course of the last year obtain an L1 visa for a multinational transfer of an executive or manager. So someone who was a manager or executive of a business abroad and wanted to come to the US to do the same here, and the process to get a temporary work status that actually would put him on the path to a green card. So we'll talk about all what that means in a little bit. But first, Renato, welcome and thank you for joining us. So why don't you please tell us about yourself?
Thanks, Sal. My pleasure to be here in the show. Thanks, Ted. So as you said, I have a company. I'm one of the company in Brazil, and a training company. There we are very successful there. So we have kind of 30 plus employees there. And we have a dream and the need to expand our business outside to Brazil. So outside of Brazil. So why not? Why not United States, right? So we discussed with our partner, and we add the dream of my wife and my family to come here and live the American dream in the magical city, right, Orlando. And we put it all together and we talk to you. So we move on step by step, and we build the case, and we work hard to be here right now. So thanks
tell us a little bit about your company, and then I want to ask a couple of pointed questions about the journey coming from somebody who is just learning from the master Sal about all of this that you guys have to go through. But what is your company?
Our company is positioned in the learning field, so we develop learning courses or learning programs to enterprise companies. So we develop online training, we develop 101, we develop traditional classrooms. We have clients in Brazil like Toyota, Coca-Cola, we have FedEx down there. We have Claro, that's American Mobile. It's the 5th or 6th and most, it's the largest telecom company in the world. So we have enterprise companies, so we help them to create the content to put it all online. So if you're talking about kind of sales training, guidelines, process, all that you want, our knowledge is how we transform that information in a simple way. And talking about this, what is the best way about the vision? So we transform complex information in visual solutions to make and increase the retention and the learning process. So that's what we do kind of since 2007.
So let me ask you. You mentioned earlier that of course you wanted to come. You said we wanted to come to the United States. It sounds like you have a very successful business, or had a very successful business you're going to share with me in Brazil. What was it about the United States? Were you already multilingual, if that's the right term? Did you already have your trainings? Were they already in English? Or did you have to establish a whole new market here and recreate your trainings in English?
Yeah, we're establishing the whole new marketing. So we're building our US team here in Orlando. Actually, it's abroad, so it's home officers. So what we do, here's the thing, Ted. I've been I'm attending the show's conference for like 10 years here in the US. ATD, most of them. And once I have the questions, and the speaker opened the conference, say, why not? With the question. So first question is, why not? So what is stopping you to do what you want? So first one. So that's no reason to be afraid of the United States or afraid to be a global company. So let's put our effort on that. And second, when I was attending that conferences, and I see the result in the training in the United States. There's no difference between Brazil and the United States. So if I'm helping Brazil to have a better training, why I cannot help the United States too? And based on that, so I studied the market. I see our competitors who have really good players on there, but we can make the difference in the market based on our knowledge. And speaking of our knowledge, we have a concept created here in the United States called VizThink that's supposed to be kind of deployed or kind of used by the learning field and learning players, and it is not. So that's something that, hey, why not? So and then let's go there and see in the field and see what happened there. So that's what was our decision to.
And so you make the decision, and then you have to find somebody like the talented Sal to get you here in a way that is impactful and makes sense, and all your I's are dotted and T's crossed. So what was that like, Sal? What you mentioned, I don't think we've talked about L1 on the show yet, but that's different than the other visas you were talking about. How did you figure out how to determine which one, which visa he needed?
So when I meet with someone like Renato, a business person who says, I want to bring my business and my talents to the United States and develop a business there, I determine which of these two, E1 or E2 or L1, those are kind of the main two that I work with, because they're based on entrepreneurship. They're based on starting businesses in the United States, and the applicant is usually the one who is driving that. They're going to be the one to be the operator or an executive or a manager. They're the top person. So when I'm looking between the E2 and the L1, one of the really quick ways to determine one versus the other is, well, what passports do you hold? Because E2, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, you need to have citizenship from certain countries on a list. And a lot of folks from Brazil, like Renato, a lot hold an Italian passport, which is good because a Brazilian passport alone will not allow you to do an E2. Brazil is not on the list. Don't know why, it's just not. So then that forces us to do an L1, but a lot of times we also consider the ultimate path to a green card. And it's a little bit simpler to get a green card from an L1 than from an E2 because there is a cousin to the L1. Again, here's some more alphabet soup. Called the EB1C, which is the green card cousin of the L1, which is similar requirements. And Ted, you actually mentioned earlier, Renato, you have a successful business in the United States. Why come here? That's actually part of the requirements of this L1. You need to establish that you were successful in your home country. You had a business that was large enough to support you as an executive or a manager. Now, so we're talking about several levels of employment, several levels of supervisors and staff, so that Renato, as the applicant, doesn't have to be doing the day-to-day duties. So he's not necessarily going to be in Photoshop designing the visual communication tools that his company makes. He's going to be overseeing the folks who are making that happen. So when we talk to Renato, we talk first about what his company in Brazil is doing. And then we talk about how he wants to set it up in the United States. How big can he possibly make it? Who's he going to reach out to? What is his market going to be? And we go from there, and we develop a plan to get 1 year. The L1 initial period of stay is 1 year. Now, sometimes what happens is that these cases get requests for evidence. CIS isn't totally convinced. They want a little bit more. And then you respond to that request for evidence. And this whole process to finally get an approval could take nearly all of that 1 year. And as Renato and I learned, they don't always post-date that approval. So of that 1 year, you could spend several months waiting for the approval. And then all of a sudden you have 4 or 5 months left to prepare for an extension, which is what Renato and I had to do this January.
Wow. So you really are constantly having to be on top of it.
Absolutely.
How long does an L1 lasts a year at a time? Is it renewable, or once you get it, do you have longer time period?
It's longer for the renewal. So for a brand new business like Renato started, you get 1 year to build up your business to show in your renewal application that you are truly an executive or manager. You have delegated all of your day-to-day duties. And then you ask for 2 more years. And then you can ask for 2 more years, and then another 2 more years, and you max out at 7. So
it maxes out at 7.
Yes, maxes out at 7. But by then, you move on to that EB1C green card process, which Renato and I are working on now, so that you can kind of show the same stuff. I am an executive abroad. I'm an executive here, or a manager. Our companies are large enough to support me in those roles. They are earning enough money. There's enough staff. We are active and viable. We have a physical premises, which we'll see how immigration looks at that in the future, seeing as how that's kind of changed.
Right.
That's something that they really have a hard requirement for. So much so, and Renato will remember, we have to submit not just photographs of the office space that he's using, they have to be in color. You have to submit color photographs of the space. Interior, exterior, signage, working spaces, break spaces, everything needs to go, pretty much everything but the bathroom needs to go to immigration to show that this is an actual working office and not just people working from home. Again, we'll see what the rest of 2020 holds for that requirement. But for now, that's
So this is a true question. I'm asking because I'm definitely naive. I'm learning from this program, this series, from you. What is let's say you get the L1. Is there a time frame before you can become a citizen? Is that always the ultimate path that people want? Or are there some circumstances where it just doesn't make any sense for somebody to go full force towards citizenship?
Some folks do want to ultimately get citizenship, and some don't. They don't like the idea of having to give up a foreign passport, even because that's what the U.S. requires. You're supposed to renounce any foreign citizenships, but it's not like they're going to take Renato's Brazilian passport once he does become a citizen.
Right.
So people end up holding on to them. But to get to citizenship, you first need to become a green card holder. So you need to go from temporary to green card, have the green card for at least 5 years, and then you could apply for citizenship.
I didn't know that. See?
And that's a very complex, I'll just become a citizen. Like, you have to go through a lot of steps. So we're talking about the L1 process, probably to do the renewal. Then you have to get an EB1C. Then you need to wait for 5 years. Then you need to apply again. We're talking about 4, 5, 6 steps sometimes to get to citizenship. And, each time you submit something to immigration, you have to cut them a check. And to do it right, you usually need someone like me to help out with it. So it is long. It is often expensive. It is complicated. And when people just say, why don't you just get in line and become a citizen? What line? There's no
Well, in all honesty, the reason I asked that because I did not know, but also in the back of my mind, I hear people who have got a different opinion about immigration than I do. And I know that a lot of them are like, well, they're here. Why don't they just, and I'm saying this, why don't they just sit for the exam? It's a
just sit. It's like just thinking, I feel like becoming a citizen. You have to go through all these steps. You have to be a green card holder for 5 years. And to be a green card holder, it's harder than ever now that we have things like the public charge rule and everything. So it's harder than ever. But when you do things right and you do things the right way, yes, it's going to take a long time and it's going to require time and effort and money and things like that. But ultimately, people do get rewarded with this by getting their citizenship. Now, when I help people with citizenship, I feel like it's about 50-50 people who on year 5 and 1 day, they want to apply. And then I'm talking with people who have had a green card for maybe 20 years. They just never got around to it. So they've renewed their green card several times. Like, I'll be a citizen next time. And they just don't do it. So it's really funny how it's split between I want to be a citizen right away and I can live with that.
So Renato, you tell me your status as you're working through this, as you're going through the paperwork, and now you're going through more paperwork, and you'll have probably paperwork until the end of time. Are you able to work and function here in the States? How does that work?
I'm a L1, so I'm allowed to work in my company. That's a funny story when I heard that. So I have to be allowed to work in my company here in the US. So that's my side of this. I can work in my company, and Sal can correct me. I think that I can only work in my company. And that's it. As a president in my company, that's all that I can do. I think that my wife can work too. Of course, my daughter, my older daughter, has the L2 status, and my second daughter is American, so she was born here, so she's free of paperwork.
What a great life that is.
Yeah, the L1 allows you to work for the company that you set up. So actually on his proof of his status, his I-94 card, it says Visual Insight as the petitioning company. So he works for them. The spouse of an L1 gets an L2 status, and they can apply for a work permit, but that's a general work permit. If Renato's wife wants to start her own business, if she wants to go work at Publix, she can do whatever. She can do whatever. If she has that work permit, that allows her to do that. And that's like the E2 as well. And that sometimes becomes a little bit of a strategy for us when I'm working with clients is who may have the more diverse employment opportunities. Maybe they should be the spouse and get that work permit, and have the other spouse who just wants to work for the petitioning company, they work for the company.
So we had questions, and normally when I get questions like this, I just refer them later, but this is such, 2 or 3 people said something. Oh, your dad's on, by the way. What a good guy. He's always good to you. But hi, Dad. Taxes. So while someone's here on an L1, are they reporting, other than them keeping the renewal going? Is there tax reporting? How is the company run? Is it run like an American corporation? I think people get confused. They don't know because all they know is what they've seen on some really horrible TV show.
Yeah. So from the business side of things, the L1 business is an American company that is set up in the United States. It's registered with the state of Florida. Yes, there is a foreign parent company or a foreign affiliate that is part of the ownership, but it's an American company. It's an LLC, or it's an S Corp, or it's a C Corp, or it's a partnership. It's an American company registered in the United States, articles of incorporation, the whole 9. So it's subject to American tax law. And the individual, even though they don't necessarily have permanent residency for immigration purposes, they do at some point switch into tax residency. And that's about where I feel comfortable talking about it, because idea for next show, bring in
yes, exactly.
Yeah, in terms of personal taxes, we'll have to pay as American, and also we pay with my revenue in Brazil too. So United States and Brazil don't have the agreement, so I pay tax over my revenue in the United States and Brazil. So if someone is looking forward to do the L1, be aware what the tax you're gonna pay in a personal perspective, because you have to fill the forms, a lot of forms, a lot of letters, again, a sip of letters, but you have to show your money in Brazil here in the US. So if you don't wanna get in trouble, so you have to open, and again, it's a life open. In the United States, we'll see everything. What are you doing in Brazil?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
what are you doing in a foreign country? Yeah.
Let me ask you, Renato. Part of the show, one of the reasons why I love having people on like you, we talk about what you've gone through, is to also promote. So tell us what your goals are for 2020 for Visual Insight. I think it's important. And then tell us who a good client would be. I think it's important for us to kind of know and get to know the company. I think I have a pretty good idea of what you do, but maybe people who are watching going, well, they might be a EVP of a company or an executive at a company that might be able to utilize your services. So let's promote you a little bit. Let's promote the company.
Okay, thanks, Ted. The Visual Insight, our goal is kind of establish a US team, and we're doing that right now. So we have my VP of marketing and sales, we have my assistant, and we have graphic designers, instructional designers here in the United States. And we are working. One of our projects is we're developing food safety training for Dunkin' Donuts, international Dunkin' Donuts. So it's not going to US; it's going to all Dunkin' Donuts abroad. Other company that we're working is James Hardy, that's siding walls, the cyber cement, and there we are helping them to create the timelines for on the construction site. So we're income, for example, that prepaid cards, gift cards that we have on 7-Eleven, Publix, all the stores. We help them to build RFPs, we build sales presentations, and also training. So we are building kind of a small market, but growing. We don't need to have 20, 30 clients. We need really 5, 10 good clients. So we are looking for companies that really have complex products and have to explain to our team. So we make that product seem simple, and they help to sell it, for example. And we have kind of sales deck or pitch deck that you want. So we help there if you have any information that, here's the thing. If I ask you, think about a dog and close your eyes and think about a dog, it's an image that comes into your brain and into your mind. So it's something that we do in the sales presentation, sales deck, in the training field. So we help clients to have complex information to make it simple way. Infographics, for example, is a good result. So how you see a picture and you understand what you're meaning. So how you explain, for example, for a sales team, how the telecommunication works. So you don't need to stay there in a 4 hours classroom training. So we can develop like 5-10 minutes in interactive infographic, and you understand that. So that's what we're doing.
Very cool. I would imagine then. Okay, so I'm understanding a little better. I would much rather see the visual as you're describing it than sit in a classroom or a webinar for 4 hours. I mostly complain about those because I'm like, gosh, if you just condensed it maybe into pictures, I would get it, and we could get that 3.5 hours back of my life that I can't get again. That's very cool. I love that.
And actually, it helped with his case.
Did it really?
Let me share this part, because when we ask for this L1 status, they want to know that the person is going to be an executive or manager. So we tell them what the job title is. We give them an organizational hierarchy chart, kind of like a family tree, to show where he fits in, how many people are reporting to him. We do a lengthy job description, all the job duties, who reports to who, all of those things to show that he will be an executive or manager. And then the request for evidence comes, because it always does in an L1 case. And they've been asking this one thing over and over again. We understand that he has this job up, but how does he manage? I've been getting it over, and every time I see it, like, how do you interact with your boss? I don't know, the same way. And so what we actually had, Renato helped us with, was he turned his job into a nice visual timeline,
so cool,
so that we can give that to the immigration officer, so they can see, here's who I interact with, here's when, here's what we talk about, and things like, we hold meetings, we hold web conferences, we send each other emails, so we can show that how Renato's actually interacting with the managers in his company and how those managers are interacting with staff. because that's what they want to know. That's the weird level of analysis they've added on to the L1 process. It's not just what you do, but how you do it. It's like, all right, I get a thought in my brain and I use my fingers to type an email
Right.
to my subordinate.
Oh my God, yeah, that hurt my head thinking about that. But having the visual, and people they respond. They know these universal things, and if you create it so that it's easy for them, people really do like things dumbed down. I mean, I'm one of them. The dumber the better. Make it as dumb as possible, and then I'll probably understand it. But I think people respond better to that. It's less stressful in an environment to see a picture, see a visual, see a representation of what you do than listen to somebody drone on and on and on about the same thing.
If you kind of take sneak the Brain Rules book from Dr. John Medina. So when you add information, when you add that image or picture to information, you increase 65% of retention.
Wow.
And in fast. So it's huge. And that situation, so I don't have anything more to tell. I send everything that I have. So, and then we had a meeting for okay, I will transform it in a visual and see what happened, because it's the same information,
right,
but in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's what we do for business. We have the same information that you already have, but we transform in a simple way to your team understand what you do.
That's
and
so cool.
If you understand, and what we presume and what we like to believe it, if your team understand better what you do, they can perform as well and way better than they were, because they see the proposal, they see the product, they see everything. They see what they have to do in a clearer way. So that's what we do.
All right. So tell me, that's how fast it goes, right? So share with them the best way to reach out to you, Renato, the best way that they can learn more about your company or find out more or talk to you about a project that they have in mind. What's the best way for them to reach you?
I think it's my email. So I'm on my email all the time. So my email is Renato, my first name, at visualinsight.us. So we have the office here in the Sun Lake area. But I think that's the best way is reach me or go through our website, visualinsight.us. So
perfect. And how about you, Sal? In case somebody's watching or knows somebody who should be watching, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Email as well, sal@colomboherd.com. I put it there in my name, so
you did
see that. Again, you can reach out to us via the website as well, colomboherdlaw.com, and you could contact us through that. We have a chat function built right into the website where you can reach us that way as well.
Fantastic. Renato, thank you so much for sharing your story. That was awesome. And Sal, thanks for finding yet another amazing immigrant entrepreneur to bring on the show. I love it. So we tagged Visual Insight. I'll put the website again. When you all share it, make sure you tag whatever information you want them to know how to reach you, and we'll share it across the board. Good luck in all you do, Renato. You have a great person helping you out there, Mr. Picataggio. Sorry, I have to go to New York on it. But thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you. My pleasure.
See you guys. Have a beautiful Memorial Day weekend.
Absolutely.
Much love. See you later.
Be safe, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.